Hello guys, this is Avcoor, and this is a string of informative videos to help you understand the mechanics of the game. And I'm kind of glad to get to this point where I've cleared so much content that I'm able to share tips and tricks with you guys, but we really need to talk about runes because they're super important. So first I'm going to tell you a generic overview of runes. We'll go into descriptions of the runes. We'll go into a tier list I created for the runes. And then I'm going to give you some helpful tips at the end and some things to make you think about runes. And not every rune at 4 and 3 stars or even 5 are great. It's very random what runes can offer you. And this is a discussion that we kind of need to have. So I'll begin by talking about one of the heroes that I have built.
이곳은 영역개척 작업 부서다.
Runes to me
무슨
are
일이지?
one of the most important yet difficult aspects of this game. First of all, they're extremely random, and what you get may not be what you want for your character. Runes are, they're basically equipment. Instead of giving you a unique passive, they only give you a stat bonus, and if you get 4 of the same kind, then they give you a small passive. Excuse me. But never overlook the fact that these core stats right here, forget about all this right now. You get 5% HP, 5% HP. Never overlook that because that's going to become very important. And you as a player really need to consider the flat stats. So when we get into a tier list, you'll see some really amazing runes, but then you'll see some runes that you're saying like they're not that great. But once you look at the 2 slot effect and you see that wow, they're giving 2 of them are giving HP, and in your collection you have 2 like rank 4 runes, then you start to see the secondary value of those runes. So I personally would like to implore you, do not ever, never, ever get rid of your runes until you see their maximum potential. Like if you have a rune, say like this, never get rid of it. Even if this is an Ouroboros, Ouroboros actually gives you HP. So 2 of them gives you HP, and you never know if this is going to be a 2, a 3, or 4, or 5 until you test it out. And there are certain times when you do see a rune that comes out as a 2, don't destroy it just yet. If it's a 2, don't destroy it. Look around and see what other runes you have, and think about another character that you want to build, because believe me, sometimes a rank 2 is harder to find because I've done this a lot and I've gotten a lot of rank 1s. So 2 and above, my first piece of advice, keep them for another character. Runes are extremely costly. Let me show you. Let's start with him. I'm not gonna like actually do it, but I want to show you how expensive they are. This is one of the biggest resource dumps in the game. So let me go ahead and put a rune on there. Like, let me see what rune I have. Yeah, let's do this. Oh, let's do that. No, let's do this because you already know that's a rank 4. So I'm actually gonna max this out. That's how much it's going to cost you to fully upgrade a room from 1 to 2, and it's going to cost you 895 dust. That's a lot of resources. 895 dust is a lot. When you're starting out at the game, it's a lot. Even at this point, I probably could do like 670, I suppose. 670 runes I could make with dust, because it roughly averages out to 900 dust if you just round it up, and that's still a lot. 1,000, 100,304, 250. That's a lot. That's a lot of money. So that's why I tell you guys, do not destroy your runes, because if you destroy them and you use that rune in order to fill up another rune, you actually have to pay for 3 levels. So you'll do 20 and you'll put that into another rune and it'll go to 17. And you're missing a lot of money that way. So if you have a rank 2 rune, by all means, it'd be smarter for you to save that for another character, because character building is important. If it's a rank 1 rune, then yeah, because rank 1 runes, their value is even lower than a rank 2 rune by a vast degree, because you're putting so much money into that rune and you're looking for stats that if it doesn't produce those stats, then it's automatically trash. So keep that in mind with runes, that they're secondary equipment to some extent. Like in Langresser, you had runes and you added it to equipment and you roll and you get certain stats. This is a whole separate entity away from that. And you have to pay attention to what they can do and what you want them to do. Because equipment will raise up stats, but runes raise up stats more than equipment. Equipment offers more unique passives, and that's their power. So let's go into what the runes do per se. Like, what do these runes do? First of all, in my opinion, you have to not only look at the the 4 slot passive, but the secondary passive that you get with 2. Because you're always going to have 6. If you build a character, you're going to have 6 runes on them. So you look at your 4 slot passive and then you look at your 2 slot passive. But remember, with runes,
새로운 세계.
you get both 2 slot passives. So with this Holy Sword and Vampire, he gets 10% physical attack. You always have to think about that. So when you look at Battle Axe, your 2-piece effect is physical damage penetration 5%. That means you ignore 5% of the opponent's physical defense. So you already know that it's for warriors and archers and assassins. I think assassins and archers benefit from this the most. And during active attack, increase the damage dealt by 10% and decrease the damage received by 10%. It's basically Rough Sea and Langresser. This is a really strong rune, and if you have a physical damage dealer, it's always a consideration. Cross is 5% HP, and this is really important because your squishy wizards, excuse me, actually can really benefit from this. Excuse me. When it comes to HP is such a valuable stat that I'm actually looking to put cross on on my wizards, because they just need more HP. And of course, you get the 20% healing effect, which is good, but the HP is super important. Don't overlook the fact that you get 5% HP. And if you combine them with other runes and effects, you get even more HP. So when I make this tier list, understand that though it is accurate, that if you spec your character right, you can actually break some of the rules of the tier list. Direwolf is critical rate plus 7%. This really is only beneficial to assassins, not even warriors. I wouldn't Crit is good for a warrior, but I would prefer attack or HP on a warrior from a rune, so I wouldn't suggest that. Only for assassins. After killing a target with after attack, deal 5% physical damage to surrounding enemies. I can't really justify that because I use it on William. William's a warrior, and I've used that rune set on him, and I just don't think that the long-term effectiveness. If you keep using it in battle, it's not going to be that effective. The one time that it does work, it's really not that effective. Okay, dragon. Physical defense penetration plus 5%. Like I said, another rune for assassins. For some reason, a lot of these runes that they've created benefit assassin ranger types more than other classes. So you increase all your stats, exclude HP by 8% when there are no allies within 3 tiles. That's good, but I think it's only good in PvP. Dragon is only good in PvP to me because in PvE content, you actually want to be near your tank or to be near your supports. Because if you extend one of your characters into harm's way, either you're going to protect them or you're going to support them. And if you don't do those two things, they're dead. So yeah, I don't really like Dragon. I don't think it's that great, but I can see the potential in PvP where sometimes you want your units away from the main party to throw off enemy enemy positioning. So I can understand that. Gladiator, critical hit rate plus 7%. Really, another one that's really only good for assassins and probably archer because they love crit. During active attacks, deal 20% increased damage against enemies with 70% or more HP. This is actually really good. Like I said, I really believe this is more for PvP as the first hit really determines how a battle goes. If you play PvP enough, you'll realize that your first engagement really sets the tone for the rest of the fight. So, and that is really important. But I just can't justify it on warriors because there's a rune that's absolutely perfect for warriors, and this is not it. Hawk, physical penetration plus 5%. Once again, another rune that is for assassins, and I don't really like the fact that they made so many runes for assassins because I don't consider them a really strong PvE class. And sometimes, if you don't spec them right, they're not even good in PvP. Like 5% damage dealt, that's actually really good. Hawk actually, but for some reason, Hawk seems to get a lot of physical attack. Excuse me. And after dealing damage, you gain nimble for 1 turn. This would be really good for a wizard, but from what I've seen, because I use Hawk on my characters because I like the 2 slot effect for physical penetration, but it only gives you attack on the mods. So I really think that's like a big slap in the face to wizards because wizards don't really have ways to increase their mobility outside of Yig and certain special abilities. So I think that's really sucks. So once again, I think Hawk, eh, it's kind of whatever. Horse actually is solid for the simple fact that it gives you HP. Anything that gives you HP is really good. Increases your physical defense and magic defense by 20% when attacked. Activates once per turn. This has its potential, but it's limited. Excuse me. There's other better defensive runes in the game to me, and this is like a halfway point defensive rune. It's good. It's better as a 2 slot rune as opposed to a 4 slot rune, and you just have to see it that way. Hourglass, magic defense penetration plus 5%. This is really good for wizards. Just before we even get to this is extremely good for wizards. Magic defense penetration is always good. But after you use a skill to damage an enemy, there's 50% chance to reduce the cooldowns by 2. Really good for wizards, especially in PvE content and sometimes in PvP as well. Really good room for wizards. One of the best ones they offer. So we go to Knight. Once again, you got to look at the fact that it's giving 5% HP, which is super important. I can't stress how important HP is. It's one of the most important stats in the game. Gain 4% all stats, excluding HP, for every time an ally dies, up to 3 times. This is really for PvP. I can't justify it in any other content because in PvE you do not want your allies to die, but in PvP content it's expected that characters die. You have to make trades in order to win. So that's okay. I think it works best for Catherine. You see some people who play Catherine actually put Knight on because once her summons dies, her stats go up. So once she uses her rage skill, she can actually increase her stats that way. So that's the only way I see Knight actually working. Magic Eye, 5% magic attack. This is a solid stat increase. I don't think this is as good as uh, magic defense penetration, but it's still good. When dealing damage, there's a 40% chance to apply a random debuff to the target. This is really good for wizards. It's and the 5% magic attack is actually good for healers because magic attack increases their healing. But then again, a counter argument is once you put on the healing rune, you really don't need that because they get 20% healing anyway. You might as well just go for another HP boosting rune. So it depends. Magic Eye is good, but I really think Hourglass is better for wizards or Boros. 5 HP, do not overlook that. Inflicts poison on the enemy after using an active attack. That sucks. So that sucks. There's other ways to put poison on, like Hassam. He puts poison on. He doesn't need this. You put on Hassam, it's pointless. Yeah, it's a great two slot. It's a great two slot rune, and that's about it. I would never go 4 slots with that unless you get a bunch of 5-star Ouroboroses, then yeah, you should do it. But until then, no. Shield is the best rune for tanks, in my opinion, because you're getting the 5 HP, and this will always determine a tank rune. If it doesn't give HP, then it sucks for tanks. And you get 10% incoming damage reduction. This is better than, where is it at? Horse, because it's all the time instead of just for one turn. So that's why I think overall this is the best defensive rune for tanks. And if you if you think about it, sometimes you may want them on healers just to reduce the damage so they can survive. Because there's other ways for healers to increase healing. The problem with this is shield only raises attack stat, so that's why it's limited. Snowflake is good for the HP. I think it's great for that. Before battle, active attacks have a 50% chance to inflict slow and magical corrosion. I think this is bad because this. Well, the question is, what class would you use this on? And I just can't justify it past 2 slots. I can't. I really can't. It's good to do this, but there are other effects that are more core in building a character, and I don't think this is one of them because the status effects. Status effects are afterthought to reducing damage to increasing damage. The best runes have generic effects, and that'll always be the case. I think staff is one of the better runes for wizards because it increases your magic attack by 5%, 10% damage dealt when using skills, and 5% damage dealt when using range skills. That's really good because you always want damage increase as opposed to magic attack increase. I just feel that it's a toss up between clock and staff. It's what you desire and what you think is best for your team. This is very subjective. I have my own personal opinions that I'll express in the tier list, but this is a really good rune. Sword is a really good rune, but it's only good on certain units. You get 5% attack increase and you get 20% damage dealt with basic attacks. This is actually really good because Sick Heart and pretty much any warrior, this is a very, very controversial rune. And the fact that it benefits warriors. This is something that warriors want. There's even better rune that we'll talk about that's even better for warriors. But if you're basically just trying to do PvP, I think this is better for PvP, as 20% damage dealt with basic attacks goes a long way in the hands of Sighart and Charlotte and main character, because their passive actually allow you to attack twice with basic attacks, and they're getting 20% damage with those basic attacks. So they're doing a lot of damage, and you secure a lot of kills, and you'd be shocked how powerful Sword is. Vampire, in my opinion, is one of the best runes in the game, especially for warriors, because with warriors want to do two things. They want to kill stuff, and they want to survive while killing stuff, and recover 20% of your HP after using the active attack. I can't stress how important this is for warriors, because they're a duelist class. They want to engage the enemy, they want to attack the enemy, they want to kill the enemy, and they're going to take damage doing that. And vampire gives you physical defense penetration by 5%, which is extremely important. Physical defense penetration is more important, or should I say more potent, than you just getting flat attack. That, because that means you're ignoring 5% of the total defense of the enemy. So they have 100, you're looking at 95, and that goes a long way, because sometimes good enemies, good opponents have ways to negate your attack, and physical defense penetration gets past that. World Tree is a rune supposedly designed for supports, where it gives you the HP, but when using a skill on an ally, there's a 40% chance of giving them a buff. There's actually accessories that actually do that better. So it's hard for me to justify World Tree. I do not think it is the best rune, but I do think it's good for the 2 slot because HP is so important. So when we look at my tier list, this is based on experience. And I have these down here. Why? Because this is the worst rune in the game to me. Because, like I said, accessories actually will do this effect. It's only good for a 2 slot. Anything D is only good for 2 slot. There's no creative intention in this. This to me is also god awful. I mean, increasing mobility is great, but that's after you attack. Dealing poison, kind of eh. And this rune is very meh. This It's hard, it's hard to justify these runes being good. Only good for 2 slot. It's hard for me to justify these runes to you guys, because in my opinion, they're absolute garbage. They're absolute garbage. I use it for the 2 slot and nothing more. These are very subjective, and as you can tell, they're all take runes, so to speak. You putting stats effects on somebody is good, but flat damage reduction is better. This is subjective too. These can work, but it mainly depends on your character, how you construct them. So I just can't justify them being extremely useful or potent. They're just better than the D rank runes, and that's not by much at all. We get into the better runes right here. This is, like I said, these two are good for wizard classes. I just think that Hourglass is better. Why I say that is, first of all, you're getting defense penetration, and you're reducing cooldowns. And it doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's game breaking. This is really good, as it does raise your crit, and if the opponent has high HP, you do more damage. But once they get lower beyond that, it's hard to secure kills. These are A tier. I think these runes are extremely good. The only reason I don't put Hourglass in S tier because it's only good for one type of class, and wizards aren't the best class in the game. This is extremely good for warriors, but I just feel that vampire and other runes are better. But this is an extremely good rune. So don't look past these runes. They're just not as good as the S tier runes, but these runes are really good. So finally, we get to the best runes. First of all, I think Battle Axe is one of the premier DPS runes in the game. You just can't argue the power that it possesses. This is basically rough C, and there's just you raising your damage and reducing damage is pretty freaking broken. With shield rune, you reducing your overall damage that you take is really good, and this is just the perfect rune for tanks. This is the perfect rune for healers. I placed this before this because healers are really necessary. Tanks are necessary, but healers are also necessary. The last three runes are actually sustainable runes. So you're increasing your healing, but you're also increasing your HP. It's coming to the point where I'm actually looking to replace some of my two slot runes with the healing rune because it gives you HP, and HP is so important for survival. And then finally is Vampire. I think Vampire is the best rune in the game for warriors. Some people will actually want this here, and I can understand that, but they're both in all four in S tier. It's just every warrior I use will have Vampire on them because I'm a PvE player, and you really need the sustain. This allows you to attack and heal yourself, and depending on the character, this could be groundbreaking. Sighart, Charlotte, Sanakin, Lancelot, Peacock, all of them benefit from Vampire because they can attack, they can engage, they can heal, and they can just move forward. So that's my tier list. If you have questions about it, that's fine. If there's something wrong, you can talk to me and we can debate that. Maybe you think this is should be up here. Maybe you don't think vampires is good, but we can talk about that. But finally, let's close going back into certain runes that are good and certain runes that are bad. Like, look at this rune right here. There's only one part of this rune that I don't like. The probability of fatal blow plus 5%. This is something that you as a player will come across. Like, physical defense is good, physical penetration. It's kind of alright. It's not something that I prefer. HP is SR. So there's two stats that I like, but there's two stats that I find questionable because it gives you 580 HP and 120 physical attack. The one thing I will say is these stats will not change no matter what. You'll always get a certain HP and a certain level of secondary stat. So you're just going to have to deal with that. Like here, again, probability of fatal blow. It's not something that I really care about or I really want on my character. Once again, probability of fatal blow is something that I really don't care about on my bullet. This I would like to be SR. HP, SR, physical defense, this is great. This is great. Avoid counterattacks, I'd rather have something else there. Physical damage, it's okay. Reduced magic damage, this is great. You always want reduced magical damage or reduced physical damage because reduced total physical damage is better than physical damage itself. Physical penetration is good for DPSs. So you can actually see flaws in my rune set if you just look at it. Like HPR, physical defense, SR, probability fatal blow. For some reason I'm getting a lot of crit that I don't want on my Valette. That's the problem with runes. Like you'll see it says 4-star, but when you look at it, you're like, it's not as great as it could be. Like here, Avoid counterattacks, probability of fatal blow. Physical attack is great, but the rest of the stuff I could do without. If I'd reduce this and reduce that, that'd be great. Like, this is good, this is good, these are bad, but it's rank 3. But when you look at this, avoid counterattacks, physical penetration, probability of crit, physical attack, kind of sucks. Physical attack, physical defense, magic defense, this is pretty good. This is kind of what you want to look at. Like, what does your character want to do? How do you want to build your character? And you start looking at this and you see like there's some rules that are really freaking great. Like, this is really freaking great because you're reducing magical damage and you're reducing physical damage and you're getting magic damage. So this is really good. I don't care about that. That's fine, but all these are stats that a tank kind of wants. So we'll check by warrior and we'll end it on that. So when you look at my warrior, you'll realize her runes are far worse than my other characters. Avoid counterattack, physical defense, all R's because it's a rank 2. Avoid counterattacks, reduce magic damage, physical penetration, that's really good. When you see a combination of this is really good. It could be better, but it's really good. Physical attack, really good. Crit resistance, really good. Reduce magic damage, okay. Probably a crit, that's good for a warrior. This all sucks. The physical attack is good. Physical penetration sucks. Magic defense sucks. HP, this is really good. This is one of the stats that you want to see. Like, the combination of this, and this actually makes this a 4-star rune. That's okay, but honestly, you're looking for three stats that correlate with each other. That's what you're looking at. Like, physical defense, fatal resistance, reduced physical damage. The synergy is there. That's why it's 3, but this could be better. And there you have it. Certain runes are better than others, but you have to look at your character and what you want them to do, and you have to look at your stats. It's a difficult process, but over time it'll get easier because you'll make more runes and you'll see the stats that you want. And my advice is you look at your runes and switch it between characters because there's some runes that will work for one character that won't work for another. But anyways, if you like my content, hit the like, share, subscribe button. I'll get back to you. Have a great day and goodbye.